involvement model, which promotes active and intensive participation of the target population. The youth will receive support from this program in the form of revolving funds, interest-free revolving funds, advanced through youth interest groups. There will be no requirement for fiscal, collateral, or security to access these funds. It's designed to respond to the high poverty and unemployment levels amongst the youth in this country, which is contributing to a high feeling of marginalization and exclusion of the youth in the development process of this country. The design of this program drew lessons from a number of programs that have been implemented in the past, and therefore our main focus is to try to fix some of the gaps that were identified. First, we are trying to ensure there is effective mobilization and sensitization of the target population by involving them themselves. We also want to ensure appropriate targeting and the proper beneficiary selection. You will realize that this time when we are talking about selection of the youth will they themselves be involved in the process right at the community level. We would like to hear a situation again where the youth say we have a program, but we don't know what is happening. They'll be involved at all the stages of the project cycle. We also want to see to it that the skills that are going to be provided as one of the components will be responding to the demands in the market. We are aware that a number of skills development trainings are being undertaken, but many of these people who have benefited still remain unemployed. The other question that we seek to contribute to addressing is the mindset change amongst the population. Ladies and gentlemen, ours is complementary to the existing programs by government and other partners. The objective of the Youth Level Program is to harness the socioeconomic potential, improve the opportunities for self-employment, and increase income levels amongst the youth. Specifically, the program will support the youth to gain marketable vocational skills and provide toolkits for them to apply the skills that they have gained, and will also finance various income-generating activities that the youth will come up with. In addition to this, we want to provide entrepreneurship skills and life skills, which will form part of the integral components or support that we shall have under the Library Program. Target beneficiaries, you know, we're talking about youth 18 to 30 years, unemployed, poor youth. And by doing so, we think we are going to cover the educated and educated youth in the country, in the rural and urban areas, and other categories of youth that you know of in this country. We have three components. The first is the skills development component, which I've already mentioned, will provide vocational skills, marketable vocational skills, and tool them, the youth to apply the skills. So you can mention various types of marketable skills that we have in this country. And in addition, we are going to promote innovations. We do not want our youth to stick to the traditional ones. We need people to be creative with the support and the information that we get from various stakeholders. We should be able to identify non-traditional ones that can support our youth. We have an investment menu or in a list of investment options, but this is not exhaustive. I will not mention that here. The second component is the livelihood support component, which I said earlier will provide support to income-generating activities. This is for them to acquire productive assets which will help them generate incomes. The third component is the institutional support. Basically, if you like, you can call it for administrative expenses, trainings, capacity building, equipment, and other things that will be covered under this. Now, the design is in such a way that 90% of the funds under this program should go directly to the youth, and 10% will remain for administrative expenses. If you look at our resource allocation schedule, it is clearly indicated, and that's already what is going to be implemented. The resource allocation among the districts will be based on the poverty count as provided by UBOS, the youth population, from which of course we impute the unemployment levels and the land areas of these districts. That is to ensure equity. We think that with the money that has been approved for the next 5 years of implementation, 265 billion shillings, we are going to fund a total of 19,080 sub-projects on average. This will derive by the fact that each community, each youth group, which is supposed to be constituted by 10 to 15 members, will be getting on average 12.5 million Uganda shillings, and therefore, if you are talking about 10 to 15, take an average of 13 in a group, we should be able to reach 248,000 youth in a period of 5 years, based on the resources given if nothing is added. But remember, we said it's a revolving fund, so we expect continuity. As others pay, we should be able to reach out more of our youth. The implementation arrangement is such that the funds will be delivered to the youth in their groups. They will be expected to open their own accounts, and they'll be supported by the local government, sub-county and district, to implement their programs. There will be a series of trainings at that level, and we've already started building the capacities of the local governments to undertake their roles and responsibilities. In as far as progress so far is concerned, I'm happy to report here that a small technical support team has already been put in place, a team that I lead as a program manager. We have a team of about 16 people at the national level. We have embarked on building the capacity of the participating districts, and the money we've got for this financial year is about 19 billion Uganda shillings. And for us, we have taken to the implementation in phases. Because this money is small, we cannot begin this financial year to cover all the districts, so we have selected 27 districts, including Kampala City. So for the first 27 districts that we are already engaged in, we have already sensitized all the district level stakeholders. We have also trained the TOTs, district trainers of trainers. For Central, we had a training yesterday in Center, and that has ended. Next week, we shall be covering Western, Northern, and Eastern. So that will end the TOT training. Thereafter, we expect beneficiary selection to commence by March 21st, and the process of appraisal of these projects that are going to be generated will come into effect. We expect the first disbursement to be by the end of April 2014. That is for the districts in the first phase. The rest of the districts that are not in the first phase, 85 of them, we shall bring them on board for sensitization and capacity building, so that they're able to begin generation of the projects. Also, April, May, June. The funding of their projects will start in July, because the funds we have cannot support funding of projects at this point. The challenges, can I mention quickly the challenges? We have overwhelming demand. Already we have a lot of interest expressed by the youth, and we have a report of limited investment options in various areas of this country. We have limited support institutions for some of the enterprises that the youth are intending to get into. The issue of poor mindset is still lingering among us youth. To you is, let the youth not focus on the money. They should rather focus on what they want to invest that money in. I thank you very much.
Thank you very much, James. James had an opportunity to do a little more minutes than the rest of the table will. James was from the policy direction of the ministry. On the table, I'm joined by Charles Ochichi, Enterprise Uganda. Yes, Charles? Yes. Charles has been engaging youth. At a different session, I asked him whether actually, after several years, he feels he's made an impact with this. Charles, you will have up to 5 minutes to tickle this audience. Wow. If you can't say it in 5 minutes, then probably it isn't. 10? No, I'll give him 5. So when he asks, I can add one.
Okay.
Andrew late, therefore I'll give him 3. Andrew as well will do 5 minutes. We want to tickle the audience so that we can hear from you, the feedback session, so that back and forth we can have the discussion. Charles.
Thank you very much, Master of Ceremonies. Delighted to be here. Chairman, get your title properly coded. Mine is to speak experience. I've had no less than 7 years looking after the youth and getting them to go into the private sector. And friends, what I'll be speaking is informed not only from the background of 7 years of doing it. I'm also a banker who has been lending to people across the Comesa region. I start my message by what I call the roots to youth unemployment. And I've got here 6 bullets. Number 1 is the narrow view about education. We feel we went to school so that we may get a good job. So you come out with the mindset saying, I'm innocent, I've done my part, show me the desk, and I will do the job. Until you address that mindset, you've got to cope with a very tough youth in your hands. Number 2, there's a belief that entrepreneurship is for the least educated or for those who are born entrepreneurs. And the moment you wire that into your head, you will always say, yes, this business failed because I'm not meant to be an entrepreneur. And you know, this is more for those who have gone to, who didn't get well at school. If you don't address that, big problem. Number 3, the business idea has got to be very unique. What am I going to do that will represent my kind of education, my kind of family background? And friends, I want to again say here that until you begin to look at all entrepreneurs who have stayed the course and have been in the game for so long, ask their backgrounds and you find them with pedestrian solutions. So do not over-magnify the starting point of our youth. Number 3, the perception about capital. And here is a roadblock about capital. The moment the word capital is mentioned, somebody is saying, I'm waiting for somebody, a bank, LOC5, my MP, somebody out there to come and give me the resources. As far as I know, I'm not capital. Again, I take you back to the banking industry. Check out that rural branch in your location, in Busia, in Amuria, in Kotido. Check the people they are currently calling their darlings. They were the people 15, 20 years ago, they would never step in the bank. Today they are the darlings of a bank. How did it change? They started using available capital. And what's that capital? Themselves. Now, is capital an issue? 0. It is not. Until you broaden the definition of capital. Number 3, the fear of failure. And this is a good one for those who have gone to school and they have noticed. Okay. Capital as good. When they come for a training, we tell them there are 7 sources of capital. The number 7 is going to the bank. Number 1 up, number 6, you don't need to go to any bank. Until you address number 1 up, number 6, you are dashing the person to a borrowing thing which has got rules, which has got agreements, and you are disorganizing a young person. So number 7 or number 5 in terms of roadblocks to youth entrepreneurship is getting it right from the onset. I'm educated, I've got to do the analysis, I've got to review, I've got to make it right, and then you discover that, oh my God, you can write a heaviest business plan, get into the swimming pool, and completely forget the one sentence about the business plan. The game in the business sector is doing it. And then when you fail, pick the lessons and do it again. In effect, what have I said? In effect, I'm saying here is, we are going to win, or we are going to lose on the entrepreneurship path for the youth on the basis of attitude. And attitude is individual, it's not communal, it's not group. So as you go and deal with the youth person, ask the person as you wake up, what do you think about yourself? To what extent do you have that energy and inspiration to keep going and walking the lonely path? The programs available for the youth are many. I was told, mention a few of them, and my colleague already from government has done it. NADS, venture capital from finance, graduate startup capital, youth livelihood, SACCOs. SACCOs, by the way, have just launched another 150 billion SACCO program funded by IFAD. Market stores by KCCA, PPO, incubators. As you see, the series is so big. What have we learned from this series? There's so many that have already been there. I want, however, to quickly say that as we package these kind of programs, we need to recognize that private sector is not just about neat way of doing things. It's about a messy, disorganized way of approaching a complicated journey. Now, here are the deficiencies on these programs. The moment we announce many of our programs, we tend to tell the youth the following message. Number one. Okay, let me now remove all this and just go to what I call an example, and I close with it. I want to close with an example of a lady that just represents the message I'm saying here, that a human being, no matter where you are located, you are carved out to succeed. But you also carved out to take any other direction that you choose to take. A young lady called Naitha Pogo from Padel came to Enterprise Uganda. After the 5 days, we told her, you are ready for the world. Go and do it, and don't ask any more questions. With 8,000 shillings on Saturday, she started her business. What was the business? Monocoin. By the end of day one, Monocoin had made the 8,000 to reach 25,000. In 3 months, the Monocoin business had grown to 500,000. Now, everybody wanted to eat Monocoin in Padel was taken care of. Now the lady was saying, this capital has grown, what do I do? She quickly discovered there was another opportunity now that could take on 500,000. She went to Mukene and started to grow with Mukene. The Mukene moved on from 500,000 shillings to 3 million within another 6 months. Then her mind again said, oh my God, I've outgrown Mukene. What do I do with my growing capital? She started going to haul fish, selling dry fish in Padel and then in Gulu. Within another another 6 months, the 3 million had reached 6 million. To cut it short, today, Lapogo is an exporter, exporting fish to Southern Sudan. Our capital has since grown in less than 3 years from 8,000 shillings to now 26 million shillings. She did not have to wait for anybody. All along, everything was right in her mind, but she thought that she needed somebody else to assist her. What am I driving at here? I'm driving at 2 things that I want to close with. Number one is biblical. In 23 verse 7 in Proverbs, it says, as a man thinks, so is he. Think you are poor, think you must wait for somebody, so will you be. The last quotation is from Winnie Oprah. She said this: the greatest victory of all time is that a person can change one's future by merely changing one's attitude. What a statement.
Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much, Charles. Charles has been in this, and he's been sharing with different groups on enterprise. And Charles actually exceeded his time by another 3.5. So if I had given him 10, he would have done 15. Andrew, you have 5 minutes, and I'm hoping that it is going to be in those 5 minutes that you will create a huge problem, as it were.
The things here don't work.
Which one is
sure
not work? That microphone
The
works.
microphone is...
We can hear you.
This may fall down on my face. Good morning, everyone, and I want to thank Akod for inviting me. And I'm very happy to find my good friend Amelia Chambade here. I'm also very sorry for coming late. I'm not always like this. Most of the time I'm worse. Now, youth, first of all, I'm not an expert on employment. So Arthur is a very unfair man to me for calling me to talk about youth and employment. But as an old man, the oldest man in the country so far, I can say a few things about this issue. First of all, Uganda has enjoyed...
It's okay.
Uganda has enjoyed 2 great things. One is there has been a massive investment in education. Of course, the quality of education is poor, but it is education nonetheless. That is one. So you have a large number of students graduating from schools. I should tell you this, in 1962, there were only 323 students enrolled in the whole country in senior 5 and senior 6. Did you know? 323. So that means that in senior 6 there must have been about 100 students. So even if 100% pass go to university intake in 1962 in Uganda could not exceed 100 students. Now, in senior 6, you have more than 500,000 students enrolled in senior 6. And therefore, you are getting about 400,000 graduates at that level of 13 years of education. That is a great achievement. That's a great achievement. Now, what we have been doing in this country is we have been piling up a large resource pool of human beings who have at least a minimum of about 13 years of education. Two, there is a second transition happening in Uganda. That is the transition of people moving from rural areas to urban areas. You'll find that a lot of these educated youth are in urban areas. And in these urban areas, they are attracted because Uganda has sustained rapid economic growth by any international standard. I'll give you an example. Per capita income in the United States today is about $48,000. That is because over the last 150 years, the United States has sustained per capita income growth at 1.5% per year over 150 years. That's the reason. Over the last 27 years, Uganda has sustained per capita income growth of about 2.2% per year, or 2.3% per year, better than the United States. So if you can sustain that level of per capita income growth, we will have a very high level of income over the next over the next 150 years. The lesson you learn from that is that you need sustained growth over the long term. Don't be a sprinter, you be a marathon runner. If you run that long marathon on growth, you will always get the benefits. Now, because of liberal economic policies which have allowed a lot of private sector activity to take place in this country, you have a lot of youth coming to partake in the opportunities that exist in urban areas. But the rate of migration of people into urban areas exceeds the rate at which these urban areas are creating jobs. So the mismatch between these people's expectations, or the mismatch between migration and opportunities, is creating a lot of social frustration, and you can clearly see that Dr. Chiza Messenger has learned that lesson and is keeping government busy on the streets. So how, therefore, do you get many of these youth to get jobs? There are two ways. Strategy one must be through private sector. And through the private sector, I beg government of you, I belong to the old economic school of thought. Uganda would have to go into manufacturing if it has to create broad-based jobs across the economy. And because we have an increasingly educated and skilled population, it is so important for us to have manufacturing as a driver of employment creation. The second is public sector. The public sector, this country has enjoyed rapid growth for so many years. You have so many cars on every arm and leg of our existence. It took me about 40 minutes to drive from my village to here, yet it should take me 15 minutes. So the public sector can create jobs through infrastructure development by building dams, superhighways and highways and roads. In the city, you can create a lot of public sector jobs. And those public sector jobs will be created in investments that will create productivity gains for the economy. Just imagine if you reduce the number of hours people spend in traffic jams from, say, 2 hours a day to 30 minutes a day, or to 40 minutes. How much time would be spent in office? Just imagine the amount of time we spend in the jam every day, assuming you spend there 2 hours every day. Let us reduce that by 40 minutes. You have 1 hour and 20 minutes, rather 1 hour 40 minutes, to be in your office. Rather 1 hour 20 minutes to be in your office working, so that productive effort is always left. Now, of course, an old man like me, I'm much smarter. On my iPhone, I have a lot of books. So when I'm in the traffic jam, I'm listening to a book. Sometimes I don't want the jam to end because the book is very nice. So you can learn even when you're in the jam. So how, therefore, do we promote private sector, especially manufacturing, or what President Museveni calls value addition? I want to propose that it is impossible for any developing country like this to register rapid industrial growth without active state involvement. State involvement can be in the form of the state organizing the capital to be available to entrepreneurs. When I say capital to be available to entrepreneurs, I'm not talking about the entrepreneurs of Uganda. In Uganda, we do not have entrepreneurs who are entrepreneurs because of innovation. We have entrepreneurs of necessity. And I don't have a job, so I can get my own. Let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, this idea that every Ugandan should be self-employed running their own business is a stupid idea. Only 8% of total US population is self-employed. The United States has a per capita income of $48,000. Only, I think 37% of the population of Turkey is self-employed. That is why Turkey is poorer than the United States. 80% of the total population, working population of Uganda is self-employed. That is why our per capita income is $600. Everybody is employing themselves. So the best way to create opportunities for employment is to ensure that the state becomes a surrogate entrepreneur by supporting those who are most innovative, like myself, so that we can establish large manufacturing companies that can employ the vast majority of the population of this country. Thank you very much for listening to an old man.
Thank you, Andrew. We are getting better. He abused the time limit by 2.
Thank you.
Right. From Andrew, I'm coming to the Honorable Minister. I was hoping that by now the PowerPoint is ready, so I kept waiting.
Maybe I will challenge.
Coming to you, Honorable Minister. In several places around the world, among the big election issues is how many jobs can be